Yeah, I got me following.
Huh? Yeah.
It's got me following.
You
Yeah.
don't see it?
Oh, there we go. Yep.
You must be got one of them slow phones. That's okay.
Probably
You got
do.
a short bus phone.
I do. I do.
His phone
I
is a
do.
short bus.
I do. Yeah, I'm on the page.
You make sure-
Probably do. We ready? I do. Everybody, welcome to the first show of the Real GM. I'm with my man, Dr. Adrian A. Gentry.
Never forget the A.
Never forget the A. And we're sitting here tonight, and we just want to kind of introduce ourselves to you. We do have a topic tonight we want to share with you, but every Monday night, support 904 Live. Follow the page. Follow the other shows that are on here. Mr. Petty doing an unbelievable job at bringing some local commentaries, bringing some local content to the market, and we're just glad we're able to do this. So, Dr. Gentry, never forget the A, goes back a long way. We go back a long way. But I said to myself, you know what, I really wanted to do something, and I can't do anything without him. So we're excited tonight. This is a talk show that's just commentary driven. We're going to be real when it comes to it. Feel free to chime in. Feel free to drop something in the comments. But we're going to take topics that people don't want to touch.
Yeah.
We're going to take topics that and take a position on them that might not agree with you, because we're going to challenge the way that you think. And that's the bottom line where we are. We're not here to make friends. We're here to talk about stuff. We want you to be at the next level. And it takes some conversation. It takes having a balanced approach when it comes down to it. We are biblically based and we are biblically sound, but we're not religious. We're going to have completely different.
Total difference.
We're going to have a lot of fun, but we're going to touch on some real stuff. Doc, give them a little bit.
What they need? What they need? Which one?
Give them a little something. Give them a little something. Because I think they're going to appreciate what we do.
Absolutely.
And how we do it. So I'll tell you what, let's just get right into the topic.
Okay.
So we talked about this for a couple weeks before we started. Oh, by the way, we didn't come on last week because Dr. Gentry was a year older. Y'all go ahead and give him a shout out. Happy belated birthday.
Another day.
He didn't do that. But today's Memorial Day.
All right.
And actually, I did my walk this morning. And the topic this morning was COVID exposed.
Okay.
Now, you and I talked about it's coming out of Corona.
Correct.
So I think part of the topic tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is this. What has happened during this whole COVID-19, and what is coming out of it?
Right.
You know, I think when I look at it, and I talked about this morning, that a lot of people are having to choose sides.
Absolutely.
They're having to choose political sides. They're having to choose racial sides.
Right.
They're having to choose medical sides.
Right.
And to me, Doc, it's literally taking away from folks having a true conversation with themselves about what's right for them.
But I think more so it's a distraction, and we talk about this all the time. It's a distraction, and the more ways we can find to argue, bicker, fuss, puts us basically more in a negative state than ever before. I think when we really talked about coming out of Corona, we were talking about the opportunity that could present itself. We were talking about changing the mindset of how people feel about this situation, because all we're hearing is negativity, right? So it's all about how many people have died. It's all about what you have to do to prevent yourself from getting corona. It's all about how many people who have actually been laid off from their jobs. What we really wanted to do is talk about the opportunity, right? The mindset shift that needs to take place, where your mind is set at. I think I say that all the time. It's not about mindset, it's about where your mind is set.
Correct.
Is it set in lack? Is it set in frustration? Is it set in anger? You will always be lacking in that state. So we want to do is we want to shift that today, right?
And I think that's important, because when we're looking at that whole thing, people have done nothing but create what's bad.
Absolutely.
And we just seem to totally buy into what's bad. I was sharing with somebody this morning. We constantly want to talk about what's not working, as opposed to where the opportunity is. There's 95 to 97% of the people that are surviving this.
Correct.
That are living through it, but that's not the narrative that we get.
Absolutely.
Madam C.J. Walker, and for those of y'all that haven't seen that on Netflix, take a look at it. But Madam C.J. Walker was arguably the first female millionaire, African-American millionaire, and she did it during the Spanish fly pandemic. She literally created $1 million business during a pandemic. And I look at anything that's gone on in our history. I look at the benefit economically after war. I look at what happened after the Depression. And what you said earlier was so true. How do you see it? Because I think that for people who really are looking at this, if you're bogged down by the distraction, you're going to miss the opportunity.
Absolutely. And historically, if we look back historically, more wealth changes hands after a recession. More wealth changes hands after we have a traumatic experience to the economy. But most people have not looked at it from that perspective. If we go back to the Great Depression, more wealth changed hands after the Great Depression than anything else. 1990, we had a recession. 1980, 1990. 2000, 2007. And in each instance, more wealth was created on the other side by people that were lacking prior to.
So why is only a certain segment of the population, a certain segment of the marketplace even seeing that? What is it? Because to me, it should be a biblical thing.
Yeah.
But it's not it doesn't seem like that's the group of people that do it. We want to talk about racially where it is. And I would contend that a large majority of African Americans aren't doing the same thing. So the question is, why is it that certain people see it for what it is and other people just see what they see?
Well, because faith has no religion, to be honest, right? So the people who are actually involved, and I always talk about this, right? All change takes place after an LCE,
Right.
life-changing experience, life-changing experience. What I never really talk about is what is a life-changing experience, right? A life-changing experience is something that changes the patterns of the way we think, our actions, and our belief systems, right? So in that pandemic, in the state of recession, those belief systems are shifted. Now we go from a state of doing the exact same thing every day to trying to figure out now how to shift to actually achieve. Right. So I look at the whole thing that's going on right now in this pandemic. I look at my guy, Jason. Jason has been writing a book. I love you, Jay. I'm going to tell you this up front. I love you. But Jay's been writing the book 5-6 years. Jay has actually completed his book in the time where he's been furloughed. Right. I have another friend in Atlanta. She started a company right during the pandemic because she was laid off. She's now shipped, as of 3 days ago, over 100 orders. She's nearly making as much as she would make at a job, but she was stuck in the same pattern of thinking. So right now we really need to understand that the opportunity is right there. Napoleon Hill once said, at every dark cloud, there's a silver lining. We're not looking at the silver lining because we're so fixated on what the media has told us. What our friends are saying. They went out and got toilet paper, Coach. Do you realize that?
Yes, sir.
Do you realize people went out and got toilet paper?
And for no reason. I think that if you're watching us right now, do me a favor. Go to 904live.com and follow them. Do me a favor. Watch the programming that's here. All of you that are watching right now, share this with somebody. We want to make sure that people get real aware of what's going on here at 904 Live. And we can help that. We're going to make sure that we do that. So do that. Go right now. Follow them. Follow them and follow what they're doing here. We wouldn't be here without them, and we're excited about the opportunity for you to kind of plug in and get away from Netflix for an hour and
have-
watch some of this
Right.
and have a good time. So going back to what you said, Doc, when we're talking about the narrative,
Right.
again, it is a programming narrative. You talked about it's not where their mind, it's not their mindset, but where their mind is set. It's a programming narrative. I'm watching, and for me, I look at what's being said from a metacognition standpoint. I'm watching the TV when it's on, and I hear the new normal. I hear that being programmed. Again, it becomes a tolerant, acceptable conversation. I also hear this: sick or not sick, stay in the house. The conditioning that's going on that people tend to not adhere to is allowing them to be literally seduced into this new way of living.
Absolutely.
And what I find challenging is that we're talking about literally taking away the same liberties that a Memorial Day that folks fought for. What do you think that a person who gave up their life for these freedoms would think about people today just giving them away for whatever reason? Because people literally, if I ask them why they're doing it, they don't have a real answer. They can justify it,
Absolutely.
but they don't really have a real answer when it comes to it. And I think when we look at who we are and what we can be, the mindset that needs to happen can't be one that conforms. The Bible says, be ye not conformed to the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. But here's what I see. I see conformity. Now, most people will say, explain conformity, and they'll justify it because of their inability at that point in time to make a stand. So what's easier to do? Let me pick a rallying subject, poverty, racism, something that I can get behind. Because I can stand behind that.
Right.
Because if it comes to me standing behind, I got to justify why I buy toilet paper.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they do not. And so all the people that bought toilet paper, how y'all feeling right now? I mean, how are you really feeling right now? Or you bought it, but they'll have I heard somebody today giving a reason for it.
Right.
Costco is literally, people were in Costco this weekend trying to bring toilet paper back.
Right.
Why'd you buy it?
Right. And I think that's the deeper issue. And I think that's where the programming comes in. Because, and I'm not trying to offend you, but it's going to be offensive. Whoever ran out and stocked up on toilet paper, that is an indication of how you make decisions, why you're active and how you're inactive, right? So the business that you want to start, you don't see the silver lining in this. The business you want to start, you make decisions based off of what you see around you. It's all based off of emotion. And majority of people have to understand, are you making an emotional decision or a rational decision, right? Coming out of Corona shall be a rational decision about your life. We always talk about the 5-second rule, right? That in 5 seconds, you'll pretty much talk yourself out of anything, right? This pandemic has allowed too many people too much time to sit around and think about why they're suffering and what they cannot do when they should be taking action. A total different thing. They sit back and they look at the anxiety. Years ago, and we talk about this all the time, I talk about it every time I speak, when I was in the mortgage industry, right? And I was in the mortgage industry, and for people who don't know the story, I was in the mortgage industry. A woman calls me one time, and she has like a 530 credit score. She doesn't even qualify for a loan. I get her qualified. So I call the lady, and she cusses me out completely, right? She cusses me out. She says, my sister says, my sister says, my sister said. She hangs up the phone. I was completely confused. 3 months later, she calls me back, and I hear on the other side of the phone, Adrian, can you help me? My home is on foreclosure. I couldn't help her. Frustrated the heck out of me. Right. So I went home, and all night long, I could not stop thinking, why didn't she listen from the beginning? Right? And then it finally hit me. I'm watching TV, negativity on the news, negativity. Now, you have to realize I was in the mortgage industry when the mortgage industry crashed. Negativity, negativity, negativity. And all of a sudden it came to me, faith eats, right? We have to feed those areas of life where we need faith the most. Faith works in both ways, and that's what most people don't understand, good and bad. So you can either feed it in a great way or you can feed it in a negative way. So right then, I stopped watching news. Most people are facing anxiety. They can't see the silver lining. They're completely confused about their next steps. Why? Because you're feeding on the wrong thing. And I think coming out of Corona has to shift the way you think and who you hang around with. You went and bought toilet paper. Why? Because you were scared or someone around you was scared. And so you fed on that energy.
Yeah, the narrative that's always there is provoke emotion. And I think even when it's politics, religion, sports, everything. You want to get people excited and animated. And the sad part about it is all that energy is good, but when it's directed in the wrong place, it becomes truly controversial.
Absolutely.
So you have a people out here that were emphatic about how many deaths were going to happen. When this thing first came out, the resounding message was so many people are going to die. Well, we had a number of people die. Don't get me wrong. We're never going to downplay any of that. But it was nowhere near what you all forecasted. So how do you come back from that? What's the explanation now to say, well, it didn't do this? Now, all of a sudden, all these other things are being implemented in stores, social distancing, all these other things that are now being reduced or pulled back just a little because things are opening up. So the question remains, what has happened? What has happened from the time this started till now to bring an ease or an awareness that maybe it's okay to go do this? Because I gotta be honest with you, I'm like you, I don't watch it either. But what has happened? Again, it perplexes me when it comes down to it, Doc, because I try to deal in all of these things in common sense. But I know common sense isn't always common. But when I look at these things, for example, my cousin just died. Okay? A man who influenced a number of people in the Washington, D.C. area.
Right.
But was told that the new rules are you can't have but 10 people at the funeral. Yet, I can go to Home Depot right now and see 400 people. So, the people in Home Depot are less likely to get it. The people in Home Depot are, again, all these things I don't understand. So, for me, it's very hard for me to buy into the whole entire preservation of health or looking out for you because the consistency. And think about this. Health in a regimen to change your life has got to be consistency. If somebody wants to physically change their body, physically deal with how they're feeling, it's got to be consistent and disciplined. The things that we're facing out here, there's nothing about it that's consistent and disciplined.
Right.
Nothing. So now people have to decide where they sit on this thing because they've agreed on certain things. And I know the struggle that people have. They have to be able to look and say, wait a minute now, hold on. Didn't you just tell me at the beginning, don't touch my face? But now I'm wearing a mask that makes me touch my face. Come on. Hold on a second. Why has there never been any true instruction on how to deal with the mask? Why is that never the case? To me, if you're going to implement these things, if you're going to put this in as true procedure to what's happened, then why is there not in direction for the folks? And I guess what challenges me sometimes is people don't ask that. Because they just, maybe it just assume that they know what they're doing.
Because we've been conditioned to follow. I think that's the biggest thing that we don't want to understand or don't want to admit to is we've really been conditioned to follow guidelines, what we're told to do, right? And this really shows you in this pandemic how many people just tissue, hand wipes, right? I'm gonna sit back, I'm gonna wait on the government. I'm getting $1,200. I had a friend of mine the other day tell me his neighbor wasn't even thinking about going to work because Trump told him he was going to pay his bills. But you believe that, right? But you won't believe in yourself enough, and that's where I really want.
But do they really believe that? Honestly, what you were going to, I didn't mean to cut you off. But do they really believe that? Do you honestly believe that the government's going to pay your bills? I mean, that really. I would love for somebody to tell me that that's what they honestly believe. That they honestly believe that. And I think the challenge is, Doc, is that what Corona did, and I said this morning, Corona exposed, I think it exposed where people really were. I think it exposed some people who didn't have faith and wanted to say that they did. I think it exposed some people who really weren't business owners, who maybe thought they wanted to be business owners. I think what Corona did is really, and I believe that, again, Romans 8:28, that all things are going to work together for the good. I think that there has to be a reconnection with faith on all levels.
Absolutely.
Because the true reality is that the Bible talks about having faith in man. He says your refuge should be in God.
God, right.
Not in man.
Absolutely.
And that talks about it in the Psalms. So at the end of the day, again, what I see is I don't see people turning to God when it comes to it. They want President Trump to fix it.
Absolutely.
And again, that's why I've looked at this whole thing and we talked about what the other side. I think coming out of Corona, there's going to be a separation of folks that are really about their faith,
Absolutely.
that are really ready to move forward in that phase. We're sitting in the studio with a man that has a vision, and he's doing it regardless. He's doing it in the midst of. He's doing it in spite of. And I think all those things are going to be rewarded. I think the people right now that have said to themselves, you know what, there's something in me. Now's the time to do it. You know, Chris Allen, one of our good friends, was talking the other day about a stimulus check.
Yeah.
And what he talked about was, how come people aren't creating their own stimulus? Why are they not taking that check and starting a business, taking a step and investing somewhere? Why are you not doing that with the stimulus? And at the end of the day, here's what's been exposed. You're really not as forward thinking, as progressive,
Absolutely.
as innovative,
Absolutely.
and as faith-filled as you claim to be.
Absolutely.
And just because you're more faith-filled than the next person does not mean that you're at the level that you need to be.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that's what that's what Corona was all about. I mean, we all see it. Okay, yes, people are dying, mass economy is falling, but it really makes you have to look at you.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people, when you look at, okay, they're going to pay our bills, we're going to get this stimulus check. That's another way for you never have to take action on what you say you want,
Or own anything you
or
want.
own anything that you did. Okay, I didn't save beforehand, so we can really look at that silver lining again. Okay, let me go back and let me look at this budget. Right. So when I do come out of Corona, I know how to save my money in a different way. Let me look at the fact that I can start a business.
Correct.
You've started another company based off of Corona.
Correct.
Right? Shipping masks and gloves, right? That's a wealth transfer. That's what it's all about. Because your faith wasn't set in the negative, it was set in the positive. It wasn't set in what the rest of the world was saying. It was set in what can be. Same with me. I look at my partner and I.
Right.
We started another business based off of the needs of what Corona
Correct.
would happen.
Correct.
Right? So it's more about who you are coming out of Corona, right?
I think fear paralyzes so many people.
Absolutely.
And you can't pivot if you're paralyzed.
No.
So many of us that are unwilling to move, it's because you didn't know what was going to happen. When in essence, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So
Right.
the reality of it is that, again, the question is, and you just said it, you alluded to it, look at yourself.
Right.
If you're waiting on a stimulus check, how in the world? People do that in church. They're waiting on God to do something.
I'm waiting on the Lord.
Well, wait, he's waiting on you. He's done everything. So again, it's just what we really don't understand is this really brought about where we really are in certain areas.
Absolutely.
We did not, people could not, did not, or wanted to own up to where they really weren't
Absolutely.
until this happened. Now you have to make a choice about a lot of things. You have to make a choice about where you stand. We were able to keep Home Depot open, but the churches had to close. I mean, it's just, there's so many things that I believe should have been an outcry
Right.
by so many people that didn't seem to be a blip on the radar
Right.
to the majority of folks.
And I have to say this. I have to go back to the weight, right? The word weight. Because I didn't want to cut you off. But the realization is the word wait in the Hebrew means to endure, to keep going through.
Correct.
So while you're waiting on this stimulus check, you're doing the total opposite of going through. You're not evoking action in anything that you do. It's not to sit around. And that's where a lot of people have done in this coronavirus is sit around and see where the help is coming from. The help should be coming from you. It should be coming from the actions you take.
But they told us to sit around. They said stay home. Don't go nowhere. Stay quarantined. I mean, that's the sad part about it. I think we're conditioned to follow orders.
Right.
And because the order lined up with what was actually going on, it seemed to make sense. But at the end of the day, when I look back, did it really make sense? Did it really impact me? We're looking now, people were itching to get back. Those people that are small business owners, and I've seen a collective group of small business owners continue to try to support one another. I saw Facebook posts of people saying, hey, this person owns a small restaurant, go help them out, go support them. And the small business owner really needed to be able to have that. But I think about what was there. I look at who didn't lose their job. Government folks didn't lose their jobs. They kept their jobs. And what really got me was the public service announcements from all the wealthy people in the world telling us to stay home. When you're making $40, $50 million a year and you telling me to stay home, well, I ain't knocking what you're doing, but understand where we are.
Absolutely.
And I think that when you look at a country, in 1894, 96% of America was self-employed. You look at people came to this country to be able to experience free enterprise.
Correct.
They left socialist countries where they were being controlled to come here because they didn't have to be controlled. And then you looked at the seductive way that so many people have just fallen victim to. that. So, we, again, coming out of Corona, for me, all I saw was my destiny come out of Corona.
Absolutely.
I only saw the upside of it, and I had no idea what would end up starting. I had no idea what would end up being the shift, but I knew that I'm not going to sit here and wait on them. The lepers said I did, said, why are we going to sit here till we die? Look, if we go in the city, they might kill us. If we sit out here, we're going to die, no food. So you know what? I'm going to the city. And I think that's the mindset that we truly have to get to during this. You've used the word pandemic a bunch of times, and it's been the narrative as well. But the true definition of a pandemic is where there's fatalities. We got more people surviving.
The number of fatalities.
But we're back to, again, words. And when the words are constantly reiterated, again, it's back to neurolinguistic programming. Whatever you think about, you bring about.
Right.
You trust what you hear the most.
Absolutely.
And when you hear it the most, you don't even take the time to discern the messenger. Even though the Bible says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You're supposed to be able to do that, but we've been just accept
anything that's being said.
And the ones of us that don't accept it, we're the rebels. But to me, the country was founded on rebels.
Absolutely.
It was founded, the Boston Tea Party was a bunch of rebels, wasn't
it? Absolutely.
The breakaway from England was a bunch of rebels. The Underground Railroad was a bunch of rebels.
Absolutely.
Jackie Robinson. Everybody who has, Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile. Anybody that's done something that was said to have not been able to be done is a rebel. And that's what we do with rebels. We sit them on a pedestal.
Absolutely.
We literally admire folks that are going against the grain.
Right.
That are going against the system. We admire those folks.
And I look at books like Robert Kiyosaki's Why A Students Work for C Students, right? Because the C student isn't thinking about failing. The C student doesn't really care. The C student is just doing what they're supposed to do. As where the A student is constantly trying to place their information in a certain box, and I can do it when, and over preparing. I think we have to get out of that stage. I think this is what Corona should have done to a lot of people, is push them forward into taking action versus sitting back and doing nothing. However, I don't think most people have ever been conditioned that way to take action, right? Or they're hanging around the wrong people. The people who are constantly feeding that fear instead of saying, you know what, you can do it. Recently, I was sitting back and I was talking to a friend, both of ours, right? One of the largest buyers of real estate in Jacksonville, Florida. He started his company in 2007. He now buys and sells 400 to 500 homes a year in the Jacksonville. He's actually a mover of the Jacksonville market, right? He started his business during a recession. Never went to college. Was not an A student. However, he's seen an opportunity inside of this recession where he can make money, and he capitalized on it. Now we're looking about 13 years later, the top buyer in the city. This is where it differentiates. Do you really? This is where it really outlines. Do you have faith, or are you living in a state of fear? Right? Are you really living the life you say you want to live, or are you hiding behind your anxieties, insecurities, fear? What are you really doing? So when you're coming out, as of right now, plans need to be created.
No question.
What kind of plans do you have for finance later on, right? Are you saving? Right. Are you going to start to save? Are you going to start a business? Are you going to stop overthinking it?
And again, that's not the case. And I think, again, I really believe that Corona has exposed people for who they really are.
Correct.
I think that the old quote-unquote normal, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, because what was that? If this is the new normal, what was the old normal?
Right.
Because it doesn't seem like it's any different. The old normal seems the same way.
You just put on masks.
Correct.
Put on masks and gloves. And more fear.
Completely. Because the old normal, they were lazy as heck. The old normal, they were accepting of what goes on.
Right.
I really don't see what the new normal is. But I think it's a programming place for for people to accept change. And the reality of it is that we know change is the only constant that's there. But the change that we need is personal change, it's personal growth. It's not accepting of groupthink. And when you have individuals that think a little differently, we become the challenged people that are out there.
Right.
You talked about our investor buddy, and he's got A students invested with him now. So it's just funny how that whole thing works when you have those folks working with you. One of the things that that Corona has also done, I believe, coming out of Corona, I think is going to be a new awareness of health.
Okay. I think
yeah, because I think that there's so many people that have literally, and we're talking about verticals to be a part of, but I believe there's so many people that have allowed themselves to be seduced in the lethargy of not going anywhere, not doing anything. Now, we did see more people walking, but I'm interested in seeing if that continues when the other options are available. See, when there's no college football, when there's no sports on, people don't mind getting out walking. I'm interested to see when these things come back, and I made this comment early on, and I said this. I don't see them not having football season.
Negative.
I just don't see it. Now, but I'm watching it slowly unfold, and they're gonna start doing these things. But again, I said this on my vlog this morning. I watched the golf last night. Mm-hmm. I love golf. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching Tiger and Peyton have a match against Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. 4 iconic athletes, world renowned, TNT. Charles Barkley is one of the color commentators. Mm-hmm. Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady, no mask on, no gloves on. But everybody who was working the event had gloves on, had masks on. I don't understand. Were they breathing different air? I don't know. It's the same air. Why is it, help me understand that. Why is it that they were doing it? And I need somebody to explain that one to me. I don't understand that, which is why I have a hard time buying into all this being for my good, because there's no consistency. If it's good for me, it's not good for Tiger Woods. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think one of the things that has to come out of Corona is some consistency in what we're going to agree to believe in.
Correct.
I think but we're arguing about the wrong stuff.
Absolutely.
As opposed to looking at the big picture. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. If there's no consistency, how can you fully support it?
And I really look at the division that it's caused.
Correct.
Like, it's amazing to me how first we talked about numbers. Everyone's dying rapidly. Then all of a sudden money became an issue. So now all of a sudden we need to open up. That's another battle, right? So now if you wanted to go outside, people were literally mad at you. I've been called stupid, crazy, ignorant, because I choose to continue to live my life. So it's caused another division inside of you. So are you really upset that I'm not fearful? Or are you upset that you're scared? I don't understand. I don't understand what the difference is. But I think we need to really understand that when you have something like this that's on the table, it's showing who you are. If you're fearful in this to the extent where it paralyzes your life, you are fearful of every decision you make.
Or cause you to be judgmental.
Absolutely.
I mean, the reality of it is, we can take all of the information and you can find pros for this and cons for that. Pros for this and cons for that. At the end of the day, it's the same people talking out both sides of their mouth. That's what politics is. So now you have people that are really, really confused, and their frustrations taken out on their peers.
Absolutely.
It goes back to me to somewhat of a Willie Lynch mentality. How can I separate people in and of themselves so y'all aren't fighting? First, I'm going to distance you.
Correct.
I'm going to tell you, here's what I've noticed about social distancing, Mr. Petty. I've noticed people walk by people now, don't even speak no more. The 6 feet away from you has literally made people look down. I mean, I'm serious.
Across the street?
I'm watching the behavior pattern of people. It's like you're walking across the street, and it just, so here's what subconsciously people say, now I'm afraid of the person next to me.
Correct.
I don't even know. I'm so concerned about what they have or what they don't have. And what people don't realize is that it's creating a fear in you.
Of everything.
There's no way for you to operate in God's full gifting if you're afraid of the person next to you.
Absolutely. Well, the new norm, and I'm sitting here thinking the new norm is justified fear. That's what the new norm is. I can be fearful. I don't have to go out. I don't have to step out of my comfort zone. I don't have to talk to new people, meet new people. Why? It's justified fear. I can't start a new business. The reason I can't start a new business is because the corona's going on. That business requires me to be around people. So our new norm, actually, before it was hidden fear. Now it's justified.
Correct. Exposed. And I said, it's been exposed. And again, listen to me clearly. I'm not telling you not to wear a mask. I'm not telling you not to wear gloves. I'm not telling you not to use hand sanitizer. If those things are things that you feel
To make you comfortable.
make you feel comfortable, then you have to do that for you. Here's my request, is that if someone else doesn't agree with that, why does it have to become judgmental? Why can't you just respect? You want them to respect where you are. I'll be honest. Y'all come in here, I don't walk across the street from people. I walk right next to people. I speak to people. I'm not going to change when it comes to that.
Absolutely not.
I'm just really not. But I watch so many people really have that. I literally had somebody say to me they lost respect for me
Wow.
with a meme I posted. That was just, and the reality of it was the meme had everything to do with sucking in CO2. I'm sorry. I don't believe that wearing a mask all day and sucking in your own CO2 is healthy. I just don't believe that. When it comes down to it, now I'm looking, what's going to happen to our kids? I got to be honest. I don't think there's one kid walking around right now worried about getting it.
Absolutely not.
I got to be honest with you. I don't believe there's one kid that's worried about getting it.
And if they are, their parents have drilled
drilled in them.
that is going to kill them.
They want to run outside and play. They're not thinking about it. They tired of being inside. They want to go do something.
Right.
But here we are dictating their thinking. And I really believe that's what the Bible says. Come to me as little children.
Right.
Come to me with the faith. I have yet to see the narrative from people that say, you know what, God's got this. I have yet to see. We will pray for violence in our city. Mm-hmm. We will have marches with T-shirts on for a young African-American kid being killed. But I ain't seen no march about this,
right,
about rights being taken, about staying at home. And again, I'm not telling you to. I'm just saying it's amazing to me what we will rally against or rally for and what we just totally will just let go. Right. It blows me away. And again, I'm not here to tell you to start a march. I'm not here to, and I'm not saying you're wrong, not wrong for doing one. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do one for the senseless killing of African-American kids. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying to you is that if we're going to be consistent and protest the things that cause us problems, how come that is a greater problem than the restriction of my freedom? How is that a greater problem than me not being able to gather as a congregation in church? How is that a greater problem? I'm not saying it's not one, but what makes it greater? Who prioritized? What is it? Just like with the buildings of phase 1 and phase 2. What is the priority? Because the liquor store never closed. So the liquor store is the priority and the church isn't? I'm just saying, I don't, and again, I'm not here to argue that.
Right.
Because it's not my thing. I've learned this before. I want to speak intelligently about things, but unless I control it, I can't do nothing. Here's my choice. If I go into Publix and I'm totally appalled by the arrows on the ground.
Right.
I got one or two choices.
I can leave Publix.
Or I can comply while I'm there. If I want to shop at Publix, I got to walk down them arrows.
Right.
And every time I go in Publix, I walk down the arrows. Why? Because it's their store.
Absolutely.
If you came in my business, I would expect you to adhere to the rules and regulations of my business. If not, leave my business.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we have to get to. Rebellion, the Bible says in 1 Samuel 15:23, rebellion is the sin of witchcraft. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to it, when you're just outright being rebellious, that's a whole different thing. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you don't have to go to Publix. They deliver enough food.
Absolutely.
They can bring it to your house. Again, I have a challenge with people complaining about stuff when you can just stay at home and let them bring it to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But you want to go out and create a negative environment about the thing itself.
Well, the complaining has less to do with the actual problem. The complaint has to do with not having to focus on what I'm going through right now.
Correct.
So I keep picking new topics to complain about, new things to fight about, new things to argue about. Why? Because I don't have to deal with myself in those moments. I judge you because I feel a certain type of way. I feel helpless.
I'm confused. I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So I don't want to deal with that. So let me look at all these other folks.
Absolutely. People are literally mad at you because you don't have the same fears that they have.
Correct. And what's funny is that any other fear that I don't share with them is not a problem.
Right.
But this one is one that we've all had to make open decisions. I said this up front. I said this is probably the first time white folk feel like black folk. Because can't nobody go in the store. I say that jokingly, but in love too.
Right.
There's some white folk, I don't know what right word to use with y'all. I don't know what's politically correct. But the reality of it is, y'all ain't never been not able to go in nowhere. They ain't never looked at y'all funny about coming in the store. You know what I mean? So you all have finally had to kind of look at this thing and kind of get a glimpse of what it's like to
Right.
have been a minority for so long.
Right.
And again, it's not discriminatory. So we really now have to reassess pockets of other things. Corona exposed so much of the individual that I really believe that's what the true revelation is here. God's kind of looking and saying, what do you really believe? Let me put something in front of you and see if you'll make it to. What will you choose? The Bible talks about choose whom this day you'll serve. Who are you serving? Are you serving faith? Or are you serving fear? Right. Are you serving man? Or are you serving me? Right. And I think that truly is what it comes down to. And people say, well, I'm still serving God, but I'm not arguing about your mask. See, again, you want to take it away from the real issue.
Right.
You want to take it to an issue that has a right or wrong or a controversy.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, if you're truly serving God, then you're loving on people. You're not hiding from them. You're reaching out to heal the sick. You're not running from them.
You're not judging the people who are doing what you're not doing.
Correct. So it's obvious that you aren't following those principles. And again, nobody's perfect. We don't follow them completely either.
Absolutely.
But I do have, and I've reserved the right to think a little differently. I've reserved the right to say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I reserve the right to be in control of my own thoughts. And I think that is the disappointing thing, is that so many people aren't in control of their own thoughts. And people are so politically biased that they can't look at anything but the way they see politically.
Absolutely.
It could be totally off whack. I mean,
Makes no sense at all.
I have so many people that have a disdain for President Trump. That's neither here nor there with me. But at the same time, if the Bible says pray for them to have the rule over you, if the Bible talks about how we're supposed to handle those things, why are we not handling them in those ways?
Correct.
And then the other thing, which really
As he talks
is
about
perplexing, is the fact that if you don't like what he says, why are you doing what he tells you to do? That's the thing that gets me, because I know for me, if somebody I don't like is telling me something to do, the last thing I'm gonna be doing is do what you tell me to do.
I'm probably not gonna do it. It's
I'm
not
gonna do the exact opposite.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So if he's telling y'all, he telling y'all not to wear man, you know what I'm saying? But because it's not about that.
Because there's no consistency.
Correct.
Because I hold my people typically things that benefit them. They fall left or right based off of things that benefit them. So if I like you, and what you say benefits me, I'm gonna fall that way.
Right.
But if it benefits me the other way, guess what? I'm gonna go that way. You have no consistency in thought and belief systems. I love when we always talk about. I talk about this all the time. The Jewish, 617. If you go through, they have 617 principles that they live by regularly. These are principles that guide their entire life. What we are guided by is strictly emotion. What makes me feel good?
Right.
And if this makes me feel good, or I fear this is what I'm going to lean towards. And until we get a consistent mind, till we start thinking for ourselves, till we start understanding why we're doing what we're doing, what is driving our decisions, we'll always be followers. I hate to say it like that, but that's the grim reality. That's why so many people want toilet paper.
Crazy.
You were following.
Correct. And that's why the Bible says put on the same mind as Christ. I mean, there's so much of this biblical that if we started to do that, you could really see what you're not doing.
Absolutely.
When it comes down to it, our thoughts should be a certain way. Philippians 4:8-9 tells us that our thoughts should be a certain way. Positive thinking, yet we're inundated by negative thinking.
Choose excellence
all day long.
all times.
And that's what it comes down to. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is 904 Live. You can watch it on Periscope. You can watch it on Facebook. He's expanding this platform, but we're on every Monday night at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be just like this. There's no two ways about it. We're going to have exciting, fun, energetic commentary. It's here for you, the Real GM Show. And it's just about real talk. That's just how we are. It's funny because I was telling Dr. Gentry, this is kind of a two-generational thing because he's young enough to be my son. And it really gives a true perspective on the difference in age, but the similarity in thought. Because the reality of it is that people's thought is what brings them through maturity. How a man thinks is how he's going to grow and progress.
Absolutely.
So it's important for us to give people, younger people, the right information. But what they're inundated by is this emotional thing. And it's how we're driven.
It's how we're taught.
Correct. and it's really a challenge for people to come out of it.
Absolutely.
It's a challenge for people to really decide that, you know what, I need to be a certain way, but we've been conditioned so long. and conditioning is reinforced in so many different areas the same way.
And it's all based off fear.
Correct.
I think that's the part that we do not want. We hate to use that word, fear, because for some reason it makes us sound weak, right?
But the Bible says we shouldn't.
Well, we
Throw that one out there.
well, you're right. But we don't want to use the word in our own personal life. The reality is this: 365 times, they said what?
Fear not.
Fear not. And every time he said it, someone was going to what? Battle. So the reality is, if we hold on to fear, that's one thing. But the reality, we're supposed to keep going forward, even through the battle. So that's what the part I see most people don't understand. You can have fear. That's understandable. But is it controlling you or are you controlling it? Have you learned how to walk through it?
Right. Well, fear is an emotion that's only supposed to be experienced during life-threatening situations.
Absolutely. Like falling off a cliff.
Correct. You weren't wired to handle fear every day. It's not how you are. It's detrimental to your physical health.
Absolutely.
It's detrimental to your body. It literally, watch this, it compromises your immune system. So when we're talking about something that messes with your immune system, fear is going to reduce it. Separation and isolation is going to reduce it.
Absolutely.
So the reality of it is, if I'm thinking it and the actions and behavior are inviting it, I'm more likely to engage and have it.
Absolutely.
As opposed to the exact opposite. So I think that coming out of Corona, what was exposed and what needs to happen. You talked about this earlier. So just like saying, what was it? What good can come out of Nazareth? When they talk about Jesus, what can good? The reality of it is that there's a lot of good, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of opportunity for you right now. There's a lot of opportunity for you to get involved in a business. Adrian and I talk about this verse of scripture all the time in Ecclesiastes 11:2. And it says that we should invest in 7 to 8 streams of income.
Yes.
Because you never know what could happen to the land.
Right.
Now, the reality of it is that we're afraid because of the fact that we literally only have one stream of income.
Correct.
That's the bottom line. But if we were operating under the ecclesiastical principle, you'd have 7 or 8. The reason that the wealthy aren't, because they don't have one. They got
have
multiple.
multiple.
Correct. And they're good at affirmations a lot.
Right.
And my new affirmation is one that has totally changed my life. And it goes like this. It's a money affirmation. It goes, large amounts of money come to me easily and quickly. That's the first part of it. Then it says, in increasing amounts from different streams, continuously flowing, for a need to be met of money I can keep. So I took it through money coming quickly and easily.
Right.
Then I took it
Multiple sources.
but before multiple sources. I took it from coming in abundance
Okay.
from multiple sources on a continuous basis
For money I can.
to meet the need
Right.
for money I can keep.
Right. Okay.
So when I'm thinking about what this is talking about, it's really giving me a different mindset of it, because we talk about what we speak and what we get, and that works both ways.
Right.
So when I affirm it again, I have to believe that. And then here's what I added at the end, whether I believe it or not. So I added that to the end. So when I look at the whole thing, the affirmative is what I want people out here watching us tonight to really begin to look at. What are you affirming for yourself?
Correct.
Because whatever you're affirming is what's going to show up. So if you're affirming negativity, if you're affirming afraid, if you're affirming fear, it's going to show up. It can't not do that.
Okay.
God's word is that way. If this is what you asked for, I'm going to deliver. So coming out of Corona, what is it? Because the one thing that was totally inundated was fear.
Right.
So that was it. Boom, here's the narrative. And we took it on and accepted. I'm listening. And again, before you can have the tongue to learn it, you have to have the ear to learn it.
Right.
I'm listening to sports announcers paint doom and gloom. I'm just like, really, ESPN? But then I started thinking, who owns ESPN? Disney. Who's Disney in bed with? Gates. I mean, again, that's a whole.
You're going too far.
That's a whole other thing. I'm not gonna go there.
You're
But
going
the
too
reality of it is that I'm looking at, and here's what I'm
Right.
looking at. Y'all are employees.
Absolutely.
You better say
Whatever they tell
you to say.
Absolutely.
Because they write your check. And I think, again, understanding that, and I've said that about athletes before, they're high-paid employees. But coming out of Corona, what are you going to be differently coming out of? What are you going to do differently coming out of Corona? How many people, Doc, have been reading during Corona?
None.
How many people have been listening to audiobooks coming out of Corona? How many people have really positioned themselves coming out of Corona?
None. And I think most people have been glued. Most people have been glued to the negativity. I'm watching it every day through the media. It's coming through my timeline. Media. You're watching. I talked to somebody recently. They said they watch 4 to 5 hours of news a day. For what?
Exactly.
Why would you listen?
I want to stay informed.
Right? No. For what? But all you're doing is causing yourself anxiety.
Correct.
In doing so.
Correct.
I tell people all the time: words become beliefs. Beliefs become actions. Actions become outcomes. If you keep getting the same outcomes, it's probably because we're just going in your ear. The Bible talks about it all the time, protecting your ear gates,
And your
right?
eye gates.
And your
Correct.
eye gates, because what goes in your brain, and they talk about the mind and heart connection. What goes in your mind affects your heart. You're fearful because of what you're listening to. Your words become beliefs, beliefs become actions, actions become outcomes. If you keep having the same outcomes, obviously it's something either you're listening to or something you believe that must be rectified.
Out of your heart, the mouth speaks.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that that's exactly what it's come down to. What's in your heart. And really what's been exposed is there's judgment in your heart. Here's what's exposed. There's conditions in your heart. Everything, the things you're doing are very conditional right now. But yet you want the agape, unconditional love of God. And again, we're talking about what's been exposed. Look, I want it to change for everybody. I want it to be different for you. And I believe it can be. But it's not going to change until you do.
Absolutely.
It's not going to change until you decide, hey, wait a minute, something just don't add up. See, that's me. It's not about conspiracy theories, even though I will look at the bottom line and see where it is. But to me, guys, just some things don't add up. And when they don't add up, from a consistent standpoint, it's hard to buy in to the whole thing. I'm sorry. I would love to. But again, we look at I did this talk the other day. They want Barabbas. Right? Here you had Good Friday. Pontius Pilate gave them the choice. Y'all can have this fool that's murdering folk, or y'all can have Jesus. They said, give us Barabbas, because they didn't want the truth. The truth was right there. They didn't want the truth. I believe there's so many people out here who don't want you. They don't want to believe that their political affiliation might not be the right one. They don't want to believe that what they've been believing in church might not be real. They don't want that. So give me this. Because this way, if I look at the negative, I ain't got to look at all that.
Absolutely.
I don't have to make a decision about that.
It ain't
I
me.
can keep my feeling on that over there.
Absolutely.
But so give me this. I'll go with this negative stuff, because more people talking about that. I can be smart over here. I can feel good about over here. But if I really got to deal with the truth, that's where it is. And I think COVID-19, if nothing else, exposed them to who they really are. And a lot of folks don't want to deal with it, don't want to look at it. And when they look at it, Doc, I believe they don't really like it.
And the sad part about it is that's what they need to embrace. That truth. The truth that it may be just you. The truth that you're fearful of what's going on.
or what you don't understand what's going on, or because you don't know what's going on.
Correct.
I think, again, we're looking for absolutes. I think people are always looking for absolutes. And at the end of the day, the absolute is what we really truly believe from a non-fear perspective. Here's the deal. Perfect love casts out all fear. And again, we're talking biblical
say it one more
scripture
time. Say it one more time.
1 John 4:18. Perfect love casts out all fear.
Okay.
Not conditional love.
Okay.
Perfect love.
I just wanted to hear it twice.
Yeah, perfect love. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, ask yourself these questions. Are you operating in perfect love? I didn't say, are you perfect? Are you operating in perfect love? Are you forgiving? Are you doing that, forgiving yourself? Are you forgiving other people? Are you doing those things? Those are the things to me. Are you helping the poor? Right now, we're staying away from them.
Right.
Are you healing the sick? Right now, we can't go near them. I mean, so all the things that we're doing, again, I'm not telling you to, if you feel like you're risking your life. I got to believe that if Jesus was walking the face of this earth right now,
He'll be healing.
he'd be healing people, he'd be going to see people, he'd be going to touch people. He'd be rebelling in a way that can, I think there's a way for you to rebel without being rebellious.
Absolutely.
I think there's a way for you to follow your truth, and it only looks rebellious to people who don't agree with that truth.
That
You know
face
what I
their
mean?
own reality.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And the Bible says in Proverbs 14 and 12, there's a way that seems right unto man, but in the end is death. It seems right. And again, it's not, for me, that's why I've never said to people, I'm not debating right or wrong. I'm debating, does it add up? You can't tell me that what you're seeing adds up. You can't tell me that. From any voice that you've deemed credible,
Right.
from any science that you've looked at, you can't tell me that any of this lines up. From a common sense standpoint. But common sense ain't always common. This has been the first episode of The Real GM. You all know how he brings it. Dr. Adrian A. Gentry. We're going to do this every Monday. Do me a favor. Again, stay plugged in to 904.com. Stay plugged in 904 Live. Please, please follow them. But here's what I would love for you to do for us. We would love to hear, obviously, your comments and commentary. And we'd love to hear any show topics that you have. We're going to do this, just him and I, for a couple weeks, and then we're going to invite people on. We've been already throwing around some crazy topics that are going to be Montel, Geraldo, Jerry Springer like when we get done. But it's going to be fun. But I think there's a way to have some intelligent conversation, to bring about what's there, to challenge you, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to challenge the way you think, because here's what we know. If we can change your beliefs, we can change your level of anticipation. If we change your level of anticipation, we can change your attitude. We can change your attitude, we can change your behavior. If we can change your behavior, we can change your performance. And if we can change your performance, we can change your life. It all starts with the way you think. This is The Real GM. That is Dr. Adrian. Never forget the A. Gentry. This is show 1 in the books. We look forward to you next week, 7 o'clock. Share it with somebody and tune in and have a fantastic time.
Cedar key juice on my toe, man.
And our last ingredient, Florida shrimp. Here we go.
Just push him in there.
All right.
Hey, shrimp gets a round of applause.
All right, Chad. Now that everything's in the pot, we're on countdown.
When this thing hits the table, what do you go for?